Collectively witness this tragic and horrifying loss of life and humanity. Today, former officers Tao, King, and Lane stand convicted by a jury of their peers for willfully violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights, the same rights guaranteed to all of us by the United States Constitution. These officers had a moral responsibility, a legal obligation, and a duty to intervene. And by failing to do so, they committed a crime.
George Floyd's brother, Philonise Floyd, also spoke at this press conference about how this conviction was another small step towards justice and accountability. Let's listen.
Today is a good day for us. That this is the first time that I ever seen something like this did. Four white officers were convicted of killing an African-American man. I know a lot of people have been texting me back and forth. I'm grateful for what all of the attorneys did today. And, they my friends, because they did a hell of a job. And after just watching what happened to Kim Potter, I was like, I'm still going to believe and I have faith, because I just wanted some time to be served from somebody for what happened to my brother. This is just accountability. It can never be justice because I can never get George back.
Of course, standing there next to Philonise, Brandon Williams, George Floyd's nephew, both have been very outspoken ever since George Floyd's death almost 2 years ago now. Brandon Williams also had similar things to say when he spoke to the media as well. He said there's still a lot more work, though, that needs to be done.
All right, now we know the state trial looms in the future, but what's directly next regarding this verdict for these defendants?
Well, the judge did give each of the defendants a heads up that they would be contacted in the next week by a probation officer, because there needs to be a pre-sentencing investigation for each of these defendants that will help inform the judge when he is tasked to render a sentence for these defendants. We know that based on this federal statute, because the jury did find that their inactions caused the death of George Floyd, that under the law that could be up to life. However, there are federal guidelines with sentencing that this judge could also use to inform his decision, which would probably be something much less.
All right, Chanley Painter, thank you so much for that report. Appreciate it as always, and all the great work you've done out there. I'll let you go now. Bring back in my guest, trial attorney Rachel Fazet. And Rachel, I guess I'll just begin by getting your reaction to this verdict. It sounded like it was an emotional one, but your reaction.
I'm really struck by Mr. Floyd's brother's speech and just how they must be feeling that the law enforcement caused the death of their brother, yet now it's the law and the U.S. Attorney, more law enforcement, that is attempting to bring some justice. So I'm struck by how mixed their feelings must be.
It's interesting because these federal charges, the whole idea, I think, was to bring this sort of larger message. And I think the Assistant Attorney General there, he made that point, the idea that Floyd represented us all. All our civil rights were essentially violated when one person's civil rights were violated. And it sends a larger message, I think, to police in general, that they have to be aware of these things, even if someone is accused of a crime. And I think if anything comes out of this trial, that would be the real important message here.
I agree with you. They are being tried for inaction, and they were convicted for their inaction. And that is a standard that is now being set and should be set in cases like this, but I don't think has been set in the past. So I agree with you. This is groundbreaking, and I think that the U.S. Attorney is correct. Everybody's civil rights are at play here.
There's a small part of me, Rachel, though, that feels for these officers. I understand what they did was morally wrong on a number of levels, obviously criminally wrong, at least on a federal level at this point. But I still think that they were victims somewhat of police culture. The idea that they didn't do anything, even though they seemed to make overtures on some level, at least a couple of them, that they knew something needed to be done, but they were held back by what I believe is police culture. And